Eddie, I just wanted your reaction to the latest edition of Clapback Thursday. Oscar De La Hoya launched into Canelo. It was a long one, and he said that Canelo had no loyalty. Is loyalty such a concept at the highest level of the sport in boxing?
Canelo has no loyalty, but he makes that very clear to you. Do you know what I'm saying? So, by the way, there's a difference between having loyalty in the boxing business and having a loyalty in life. Like, Canelo's a great guy. I think he's but what I don't mind about Canelo chopping and changing is he's pretty honest about the situation. Like, what he won't do is call, oh, Eddie, I want to be with you for the rest of my career. Oh, yeah, you know, he says he loves working with us. He does love working with us. But he also says, wherever the best deal is for me, that's where I'm going. So you know where you stand. Do you know what I mean? And it is what it is. Like, you know, I like loyalty in boxing. It's very rare. But when I do find it, I tell you, I go above and beyond. So if someone actually wants to be loyal to me, you know I'm going to do I'm going to do a good job anyway. I'm going to do an unbelievable job if you're really with me. Because if you're really with me, I'm really with you, and I won't let you down. But you know, also he's kind of like at the stage in his career where, like, he doesn't really need to be loyal, does he? He's got like 2 or 3 fights left. So yeah, the clapback was a long one, always entertaining. Edgar Berlanga got some strays as well. Yeah, so I guess that beef will forever be there. But you know, the good news for us on the Golden Boy side is we have 3 Matchroom Golden Boy fights over the next 7 days. Obviously Saturday night, Catterall, Barboza, and then Shakur against Floyd, and Ortiz against Madrimov. So beef is always entertaining, but let's just keep seeing great fights.
The thing you said on the Canelo drives was that Canelo hasn't done enough for the Mexican community. Now, I've seen Canelo do a lot of drives and Christmas drives and giveaways and such, but he felt that by going and having fights in Saudi, he should be having his fights over in Mexico to continue on his legacy. Do you see anything in that?
It's not about me, and it's not something that I said, so I don't really know.
Just want to ask you, Fisher-Allen rematch, what's the latest with it?
I think, subject to getting a deal done, I think it's got a great chance. I mean, I had a good meeting with Johnny Fisher the other day. He wants the immediate rematch. Can we make it work and happen with everybody's expectations? That's the key. I think, but when I say if everyone's sensible, that doesn't mean everyone's got to take the money that we want or else. It's just that, like, when you do a show like that, for example, Saturday fight night on DAZN, with a good crowd that sells out the Copper Box, 7,000, like the money in the pot is really straightforward. Do you know what I mean? So as long as you can make that work, we got to fight. If we can't make it work, we ain't got to fight. And Johnny will fight someone else. But he wants the fight. So we'll see.
Have you met with Dave yet to talk figures?
No.
Lopez, Eddie, the winner of the Barboza, and Catterall.
Yeah, going to be ordered to fight him. Obviously, you know, next week I think in Riyadh we're going to really see what's happening with Teofimo, with the winner of this fight, with Richardson Hitchens. Who knows? But there's nowhere to run. Also, obviously, the big news for Dalton Smith. He's been mandated to fight for the WBC title. So both the winner of this and Dalton Smith are locked in to challenge for the world title. Whether it comes in 3 months or 6 months, that's the time frame, really. So great positions, but obviously, firstly, Dalton's got that now, and Jack's got to win tomorrow night. Cheers.
Eddie, can I just ask you one last question? Don't want to another somber note, but John Cooney, just want a message to see he passed away after a bout in boxing.
Yeah, devastating. John fought on our show, Katie Taylor against Cameron 1. I'll always remember him because he's full of beans, and he was so excited to be on the show, and he wouldn't stop, you know, telling me he's going to, you know, wants another spot on the show, and he loves, you know, he's going to be entertaining the fans, and he did actually. He won by stoppage that night. He was brilliant, and you know, I remember the interview after, and Mark Dunlop, you know, took a photo of us, and he was a real cheeky chappy, and a man that loved boxing, you know, but you never love boxing for that to happen. You know, it doesn't matter if it's John Cooney or any one of us who are around the sport all the time. And sometimes, regardless of all the beef in boxing and you know, the relationships in boxing, when something like that happens, there isn't anyone that isn't deeply affected by it within the sport. It makes everybody feel sick, yeah? But nowhere near as affected as the family, you know? And there is always kind of like comfort in knowing that John Cooney did what he loved. Do you know what I mean? He had an unbelievable passion for boxing in his career, and, you know, but unfortunately, like I said, there's nothing that can ever make up for, or, you know, almost give us any reason to understand why, you know. So devastating, and, you know, it's one of the real sad parts of the sport that we live in. Boxing does an amazing job for so many people, saves, you know, thousands of lives, but every now and again we get a terrible accident and it rocks the world. And, you know, no words from me or no words from anyone can ever help heal that pain of people that have lost John, and people, you know, who work in boxing as well. So been around it, unfortunately, you know, I've seen these things happen, and it never gets easier and it never makes sense. But, you know, our thoughts, of course, with his family, and with Mark Dunlop, his promoter and manager, who loved John Cooney. I mean, wouldn't stop phoning me, asking for opportunities for John Cooney. You know, got him on the card from Ireland, and then just kept going, and he's devastated as well. You know, and yeah, very sad, and God bless.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, Martin.
Cheers, mate.
Fight ahead tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's like we've got to get the mix right. I mean, the problem is when you do so many head-to-heads, like already yesterday at the presser, Barboza goes to me, "Oh, this is like the 8th head-to-head we've done." And the other thing that we did today is, which we are trialling moving forward, is ceremonial weigh-ins. And obviously when a fighter, these guys weighed in at 10 o'clock this morning, so they've hydrated for 9 hours or 8 hours. So they're a bit happier. Do you know what I mean? I like it because you get more time to hydrate, right? And I think that's a good thing. And we do it in America all the time. But sometimes, like when a guy weighs in and they're really tight on the weight, you do sometimes get them coming together. But I don't think this crowd were gonna kick off anyway. It's just a really good night of boxing. I mean, Catterall Barboza is a world-class main event, and then a brilliant domestic card underneath it. You know, I think Bellotti Gomez, great fight. I think Jazza Dickens against Zelfa is going to be a great fight, and I'm really intrigued by Pat McCormack against Robbie Davis. So great night of boxing.
Definitely, and overnight you got the confirmation. Dalton Smith
Yeah,
officially mandatory challenger to the 140 world title.
Yeah, massive. I mean, he's been chipping away, won the WBC silver, fighting ranked fighters. We were pushing it at the convention, and now it's locked in. No where to go. The winner of Puello against Sandor Martin will probably get a quick voluntary in the summer, and then they've got to fight Dalton Smith, and Dalton Smith will win, and Dalton Smith will be WBC world champion by the end of the year. We'll fight in April or May, but it's massive news for Dalton Smith, and, you know, I think one of Britain's top talents. I believe he's going to be a major force in that division.
Definitely as well. Obviously, you've got 4 fights on the Riyadh Team card next week. What's your pick of the 4 Matchroom fighters next week?
I've got to say, I think Ortiz against Madrimov is an unbelievable fight. Like, when I look at our guys in those fights, obviously you've got Bivol against Beterbiev, and Bivol, I think, is a slight favourite in that fight. But again, such a dangerous fight, especially the rematch. You know, does he need to adjust? He just needs to do a little bit more, in my opinion, and probably get a new set of judges, which, you know, we've got this time. So then I look at Ortiz against Madrimov. I really like Ortiz. I think he's you've got like, Madrimov's a really good shot picker. He's got great power. His movement's fantastic. I think his style is wrong for Ortiz. But Ortiz is all action, and I think he can sometimes outwork you, and Madrimov's got to work with him as well, you know. I can't wait to see Shakur Stevenson box up close, and I'm looking forward to Floyd Schofield. I've got to give my props to Floyd Schofield. He's stepping up. He's taking the fight, and it's a good fight between 2 undefeated Americans. And then Callum Smith against Boatsi, which is a pure 50-50 fight. I actually think Callum Smith's going to knock him out. Like, I just felt that against Willie Hutchinson. Willie was buzzing him late in that fight, and he had nothing in the tank. And he's not anywhere near a bigger puncher as Callum Smith. But Josh is a great fighter as well. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like Shakur is a strong favourite. But basically every other fight's a 50-50, as is everybody else on the card. Like, it's just, I can't wait to sit there and just watch the whole show.
Eddie, did Jack have a bit of bother on the scales this morning?
No, he just came down. I think his scales upstairs were telling him he was on weight. Came down and was quite surprised that he was very slightly over. Went back up, came back down, and got the number eventually. But weighing at 10 o'clock, normally at 1 o'clock, extra 3 hours to hydrate. Fine, feels fantastic. Had a great camp. Barboza looks like a beast. 31-0, huge on the scales, and it's going to be a very tough fight tomorrow.
Interviewed Jimmy Moore before the Prograis fight, and he said he thinks after Jack becomes full world champion, he will move up to welterweight. Do you see that as well? Yeah, I mean, he's been 140 for a long time. I feel like anybody who's been around the division for what will be a decade, I guess, coming up. It's a long time. You see it with a lot of fighters that sometimes leave it too late to move up, but it's not like Jack's never really struggled at the weight, like especially consistently over time. So obviously he's got work to do at 140. When you make that move, you really need to be strong enough to mix with those guys because they're a stronger crop. And the same when you move to 54. Usyk said only 2 fights left. Who do you want to see him with?
I think if Dubois beats Parker, I thought Dubois did decent against Usyk the first time, and I think he's a different kind of fighter now in terms of his confidence and his belief. And Jai Opetaia, I'd like to see Jai certainly unify, but if he can become undisputed, it's a great narrative, that fight. But Usyk's only going to take the fights where the money is significant, and they're going to be the fights where His Excellency loves the fight, and I believe he'll like the Opetaia Usyk fight if Jai can go through the division at cruiserweight, and we'll see what happens with Dubois. But yeah, I think a lot of those guys, I think it could be the last year for AJ, Usyk, I mean Fury certainly, either one way or the other. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I guess a generation will exit in the next year or two, and we should enjoy them while we're here.
Who's the stars to replace those guys you just mentioned?
Well, that's the thing. Daniel Dubois. On a Moses on a global scale. I think Terra Moana is going to be a huge threat at heavyweight. Justice Hooney, I think, is underrated coming through. Jared Anderson, I think, still has a lot of future in the game. Bakoli's going to have another year or two, even though he's getting old. I think the Kabayao Zhang winner is going to be interesting. Joseph Parker's, I don't think he's, I know he's had a lot of fights, but he's fresh. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of talent out there, but certainly those household names will be coming to an end.
When they do come to an end, do you think we'll see a couple of years of British boxing probably being a bit of a lull in terms of that commercial pull?
No, not really, but you're talking about things that you've never seen before. Like before AJ, there was no one like AJ. So will there be anything like AJ moving forward? I don't know, but just need to see good fights. That's the key.
Just a couple of predictions. Main event, Feb 22nd. Your man Bivol Beterbiev.
Yep, Bivol on points in another close, tough fight.
Main event, Dubois, Parker. What happens?
I'm going to go for Parker on points.